Don't ignore this. Your soulmate might already be on the way. Have you ever felt like something in your life doesn't make sense, but at the same time it feels too real to ignore, like certain moments aren't just random but placed there with purpose, like thinking about someone out of nowhere or feeling an emptiness even when everything around you seems fine, and it confuses you because your mind can't explain it but your heart refuses to let it go, almost like there's a quiet voice inside you whispering that something is about to change, something important, something you weren't expecting but somehow have been waiting for your entire life without even realizing it, and maybe that's why you're here reading this right now, not by coincidence but because something in you was pulled toward these words, because deep down you already feel it, don't you, that shift, that subtle change in your energy. Like the universe is slowly rearranging things behind the scenes just to bring one person into your life. At the perfect moment, not too early and not too late, because timing has always been the one thing you could never control no matter how much you tried, and maybe that's where you've been going wrong, trying to force connections, trying to hold on to people who were never meant to stay, trying to fill a space that was never meant to be filled by just anyone, because the truth is your soulmate was never someone you could chase. They were always someone who would find you when you were finally ready, and readiness doesn't come from being perfect, it comes from being real, from going through the pain, the confusion, the heartbreak, the nights where you questioned your worth and the days where you felt like giving up but didn't, because every single one of those moments shaped you into the person your soulmate is meant to meet, not the version of you that was broken or pretending, but the version that understands, that feels deeply, that knows what love actually means beyond just words and temporary emotions, and maybe that's why things haven't worked out for you before, not because you were unlucky but because you were being protected from connections that would have distracted you from the one that actually matters, the one that won't leave you questioning where you stand, the one that won't make you feel like you're too much or not enough, because when it's real, when it's truly your person, there's a different kind of peace, not the boring kind but the kind that feels safe, the kind that doesn't make you anxious or overthink every little thing, and right now, even if you don't see them yet, even if you haven't met them or maybe you have but the timing wasn't right, something is shifting, something is aligning, because the energy you've been carrying, the growth you've been going through, it's not going unnoticed. The universe doesn't ignore effort. It responds to it in ways you can't always see immediately, and that's the part people struggle with. Trusting what they can't see, believing in something before it actually arrives, but think about it, every meaningful thing in your life once started as something you couldn't see or prove, a feeling, an idea, a hope, and this is no different, because your soulmate isn't just a person, they're an experience, a connection that will change the way you see everything, including yourself, and that's why it takes time. Because not only do you have to be ready for them, they have to be ready for you too, and right now, somewhere out there, they might be going through their own journey, their own lessons, their own moments of doubt and growth, without even knowing that everything they're experiencing is slowly leading them toward you, just like everything you've been through is leading you toward them, and when those two paths finally cross, it won't feel forced, it won't feel confusing, it will feel natural, like something that was always meant to happen finally found its moment, and maybe that moment is closer than you think. Maybe that's why you've been feeling different lately, more aware, more reflective, more in tune with your emotions, like you're shedding old versions of yourself without even trying, because you can't carry your past into something that's meant to be your future. You have to let go of what no longer fits, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it means walking away from people or patterns you once thought were permanent, because your soulmate isn't going to meet the version of you that settles. They're going to meet the version of you that chooses, that knows their worth, that doesn't beg for attention or love but naturally attracts it, and that kind of transformation doesn't happen overnight. It happens quietly, in the background, in the moments no one sees, and maybe that's where you are right now, in that in-between phase where nothing feels certain but everything feels like it's changing. And I know that can be scary, not knowing what's coming next, not having control, but sometimes the best things enter your life when you stop trying to control every detail and start trusting the process, even when it doesn't make sense yet, because one day, sooner than you expect, you're going to meet someone and suddenly all the confusion, all the waiting, all the questions you had will start to make sense, not because they'll magically fix everything, but because they'll show you why things had to happen the way they did, why certain people had to leave, why certain connections never worked, why you had to grow the way you did, and in that moment, you'll realize that nothing was wasted, not the pain, not the time, not even the loneliness. It was all preparing you for this one connection that feels different from the rest. And when that happens, you'll look back at this phase of your life and understand that this wasn't a period of emptiness, it was a period of becoming the person who was finally ready to receive something real, something lasting, something that doesn't disappear when things get difficult but stays, grows, and evolves with you. And until that moment arrives, don't ignore the signs, don't ignore the feelings. Don't ignore the quiet pull inside you that tells you something is changing. Because it is, even if you can't fully see it yet, your soulmate might already be on the way, closer than you think, moving through their own journey just like you, and when the timing is right, when both of you have become who you're meant to be, your paths will cross in a way that feels so natural, so undeniable, that you won't have to question it. You'll just know, and maybe, that moment is already closer than you think. And the craziest part is, when your soulmate is truly getting closer. Your life doesn't suddenly become perfect, it actually starts to feel more intense, more emotional, more real, like everything you've been avoiding begins to surface all at once, your past wounds, your insecurities, your fears of being left, your fear of not being enough, it all rises to the surface not to break you but to prepare you, because you cannot carry emotional baggage into a connection that is meant to be pure, and maybe that's why lately you've been overthinking more than usual. Questioning yourself, replaying old memories, feeling things you thought you had already moved on from, and it's exhausting, I know. It feels like you're going backwards when in reality you're actually moving forward, because healing isn't a straight line, it's messy, unpredictable, and sometimes painful, but it's necessary, because your soulmate isn't meant to deal with a version of you that is still hiding from itself. They are meant to meet the version of you that has faced its darkness and chose to grow anyway, and at the same time, somewhere out there, they are going through their own storms, their own realizations, their own moments where they feel lost without even knowing why, and that's because the universe is synchronizing both of your journeys in ways you can't even imagine, aligning your experiences so that when you finally meet, you'll understand each other on a level that goes beyond words. A level where you don't have to explain every feeling because they just get it. They feel it too. And that kind of connection doesn't come from luck, it comes from timing, from growth, from everything both of you had to go through individually before becoming ready for each other, and maybe you've already had a glimpse of them, maybe it was that one person you met briefly but couldn't forget, that stranger who felt familiar, that conversation that felt deeper than it should have been. Or maybe you haven't met them at all yet, maybe they're still just energy. Still just a presence that your soul recognizes before your eyes do, and that's why you feel this unexplained anticipation, like something is about to happen but you don't know what or when, and that uncertainty can be frustrating, because you want answers, you want clarity, you want to know when they'll arrive and how you'll meet them, but that's not how this works, because if you knew everything beforehand, it wouldn't feel the same, it wouldn't have that magic, that moment of realization where everything suddenly clicks into place, and that's what makes it worth it, the unexpectedness of it, the way it enters your life when you least expect it but need it the most, and until that moment comes, your only job is to keep becoming, to keep growing, to keep choosing yourself even on the days it feels hard, because the version of you that meets your soulmate cannot be the same version that was settling for less. It has to be someone who understands their worth without needing validation, someone who doesn't chase love but attracts it naturally by being authentic, and I know that's easier said than done, because there are days when loneliness hits differently, when you start wondering if they even exist, if maybe all of this is just something you've created in your head to give yourself hope, but listen carefully, that feeling inside you, that deep knowing that there is someone meant for you, that's not delusion, that's intuition. And intuition doesn't come from nowhere, it comes from something deeper, something beyond logic, something your soul recognizes even if your mind doubts it, and that's why no matter how many times you try to ignore it, it keeps coming back, that quiet belief that your story isn't meant to be ordinary, that your love isn't meant to be temporary, that there is something real waiting for you. And you're not wrong for feeling that way, you're just early, you're in the phase before it all makes sense. The phase where everything feels uncertain but is actually aligning perfectly behind the scenes, and one day, you're going to look back at this exact phase of your life and realize that this was the turning point, the moment where everything started shifting even though you couldn't see it clearly at the time, and when you finally meet them, it won't feel like something new, it will feel like something remembered, like your soul recognizing a presence it has known for a long time. And that's when you'll understand why nothing else worked out before, why all those almost relationships, all those broken connections, all those moments of doubt were necessary, because they were guiding you here, guiding you toward a connection that doesn't confuse you, doesn't drain you, doesn't make you question your value, but instead makes you feel seen, understood, and at peace in a way you've never experienced before. And no, it won't be perfect, there will still be challenges, misunderstandings, and moments of growth, but the difference is, it will be real, it will be something both of you choose every single day, not out of fear of being alone but out of genuine connection. And that's what makes it different from everything you've experienced before, and maybe, just maybe, they're closer than you think right now, maybe your paths are already beginning to overlap in ways you don't even notice yet, maybe you've been in the same place at the same time without realizing it, or maybe the next step you take in your life is the one that leads you directly to them, and that's why you can't afford to give up now. You can't afford to close yourself off or stop believing, because the moment you do that, you disconnect yourself from the very thing that's trying to reach you. So stay open, stay aware, stay connected to yourself, because your soulmate isn't just coming into your life to love you, they're coming to mirror you, to challenge you, to grow with you, to become something greater together than either of you could be alone. And when that happens, when it finally clicks, you'll realize that this waiting period wasn't a delay, it was preparation, preparation for a love that's not rushed, not forced, not temporary, but something that feels like home in a way you've never felt before. And until that moment arrives, trust this, trust yourself, trust the timing, because your soulmate might already be on the way, closer with every step, every decision, every moment of growth, and when they finally stand in front of you, everything you've been feeling, everything you've been going through will suddenly make sense, and you'll realize that you were never waiting for nothing, you were waiting for them. And here's something most people don't realize until it actually happens: the moment your soulmate truly enters your life, it won't feel like chaos, it won't feel like confusion, it won't feel like you have to constantly question where you stand. Instead, it will feel like clarity, like everything inside you that once felt scattered suddenly starts settling into place, like your thoughts slow down, your overthinking fades, and for the first time in a long time, you feel calm, not because life suddenly became perfect but because you finally met someone who doesn't trigger your fears, they understand them, someone who doesn't run when things get real but stays and works through it with you. And that kind of connection is rare, it's not something you find by chasing people or forcing conversations. It's something that finds you when you stop trying to be someone you're not and start embracing who you truly are, and maybe that's why this phase you're in right now feels so different, like you're slowly losing interest in things that once distracted you, like meaningless conversations, temporary attention, connections that don't go anywhere, because your energy is shifting, your standards are rising without you even trying, and that's not by accident, that's preparation, because your soulmate isn't aligned with the old version of you, they're aligned with who you're becoming, and that's why certain people are naturally fading out of your life right now, not because something is wrong but because they were only meant to be part of your journey, not your destination. And I know that can feel lonely sometimes, watching people drift away, feeling like you don't fully belong anywhere anymore. But that's the in-between phase, the space between what you used to be and what you're about to become, and it's uncomfortable, but it's necessary, because you can't step into something real while still holding on to things that were never meant to last, and the more you let go, the more space you create for something genuine to enter your life, and that something isn't just love, it's alignment, it's connection. It's a bond that feels effortless yet meaningful at the same time, and when it happens, you won't have to force conversations, you won't have to overthink every message, you won't have to question if they care, because it will be obvious, it will be consistent, it will be real, and that's how you'll know the difference, because everything before this probably felt uncertain, hot and cold, confusing, like you were always trying to figure things out, but this will feel different, this will feel like something you don't have to chase, something that naturally flows into your life and stays, and maybe that's why you've been going through so much internal change lately, because you're being prepared to recognize this kind of connection when it arrives, because if it came into your life a year ago, or even a few months ago, you might not have been able to see it clearly, you might have doubted it, overthought it, or even pushed it away without realizing it, but now, after everything you've experienced, you're starting to see things differently, you're starting to value depth over surface, consistency over intensity, peace over chaos, and that shift is everything, because it means you're no longer attracted to what once hurt you, you're aligned with what's meant to heal you, and your soulmate will reflect that. They won't come into your life to repeat your past, they'll come to help you build something new, something stable, something that doesn't disappear when things get difficult, and yes, there will still be challenges, because no connection is perfect, but the difference is both of you will choose to stay, to grow, to understand each other instead of walking away at the first sign of discomfort, and that's what makes it real, that's what makes it different, and the more you step into your authentic self, the closer you get to that moment, because your soulmate isn't looking for perfection, they're looking for truth, they're looking for someone who is real, who has depth, who has gone through life and still chooses to love despite everything, and that's you. Whether you fully realize it yet or not, you've been becoming that person through every experience, every challenge, every moment that forced you to grow, and even the times you felt like you were falling apart, you were actually rebuilding, becoming stronger, more aware, more aligned with what you truly deserve, and that's why you can't give up now, not when you've come this far, not when everything is starting to shift in your favor, even if it doesn't fully look like it yet, because the biggest changes often happen quietly, beneath the surface, before they become visible in your reality, and your soulmate is part of that change. Part of that unseen alignment that's slowly bringing both of you closer together, step by step, moment by moment, decision by decision, and one day, without warning, without overthinking, without forcing anything, your paths will cross, and in that moment, something inside you will just know, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, deeply, undeniably, like a sense of familiarity you can't explain, like meeting someone who feels like home even though you've just met them, and that's when everything you've been feeling, everything you've been going through will finally make sense, because you'll realize that this journey was never about searching for someone else, it was about becoming the person who was ready to meet them, and now, you're closer than ever, and when it finally happens, when your soulmate actually steps into your life, it won't feel like something you need to question, it won't feel like something fragile that could break at any moment, it will feel steady, grounded, and real in a way that almost surprises you. Because after everything you've been through, you got so used to uncertainty. That peace started to feel unfamiliar, and at first you might even find yourself overthinking it, wondering if it's too good to be true, waiting for something to go wrong like it always did before, but slowly, moment by moment, they'll show you that this time is different, not through big promises or empty words, but through consistency, through the way they show up, through the way they choose you even on ordinary days. And that's when it will start to sink in, that this isn't temporary, this isn't another lesson disguised as love, this is something real, something that was always meant to find you, and in that realization, something inside you will soften, all the walls you built to protect yourself will slowly come down, not because you're forcing them to, but because for the first time, you feel safe enough to let them go, and that safety, that emotional security, is something you can't fake. It's something that only comes when two people are truly aligned, when both of you have done the inner work, faced your own battles, and still chose to remain open to love, and that's what makes this connection different from everything else you've experienced before, because it's not built on need, it's built on understanding, it's not driven by fear of losing each other, it's grounded in trust, and that trust will grow stronger with time, not weaker, because both of you will be willing to communicate, to listen, to grow together instead of apart, and that's something you might not have experienced before, a connection where you don't feel like you're fighting for attention or proving your worth, but instead feel appreciated, valued, and seen for who you truly are, and as this connection deepens, you'll start to notice how naturally your lives begin to align, how things that once felt complicated start to feel simple, how decisions that once confused you now feel clear. And it won't be because everything is magically perfect, but because you're no longer facing life alone. You have someone beside you who understands your journey, who supports your growth, and who walks with you instead of ahead of you or behind you, and in those quiet moments, the ones that don't look extraordinary from the outside, you'll feel it the most, that sense of peace, that sense of belonging, that feeling of being exactly where you're supposed to be, and that's when it will truly hit you, that everything you went through, every heartbreak, every delay, every moment of doubt, wasn't there to hurt you, it was there to guide you, to shape you into the person who could receive this kind of love without fear, without confusion, without losing yourself in the process, and you'll finally understand why things didn't work out before, why certain people had to leave, why certain paths had to close, because if they hadn't, you wouldn't be here now, you wouldn't have become this version of yourself. The one who is capable of recognizing real love when it arrives, and that's the beauty of it, the way everything comes together in the end, not perfectly, but meaningfully, and as you stand in that moment, looking at the person who once felt like a distant possibility, you'll realize that they were never actually far away, they were always on their way to you, just like you were on your way to them, both of you moving through life, growing, learning, evolving, until the timing finally aligned, and when it did, it didn't feel rushed, it didn't feel forced, it felt right. Like something that was always meant to happen finally found its moment, and in that moment, all the waiting, all the uncertainty, all the questions you once had will fade into the background, because you won't need answers anymore, you'll have something greater, something real, something that speaks for itself without needing explanation, and that's when you'll understand the truth, that your soulmate was never something you had to search for desperately, they were something you had to become ready for, and now that you are, now that you've grown into the person you were meant to be, they're here, or closer than ever, and everything you once doubted will finally make sense, because this is what you were waiting for, not just a person, but a connection that feels like home, a love that doesn't confuse you but completes the story you've been living all along, and maybe, just maybe, as you're reading this right now, that story is already unfolding, quietly, beautifully, exactly the way it was always meant to.